Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to talk about polygroups and why they're so important in hard surface modeling. So we have this little super weird shape that we created. I'm actually going to go back all the way back to the beginning right here, and you're going to see that this cube right here has different colors, and that's because I have this little button now here turned on, which is called a polyframe. And polygroups are a way in which we can organize our elements into just categories without having to split them into different subtools. Again, if you've been using ZBrush for a while, then you probably already know about this, but for those of you that are still new to ZBrush, I just want to do this quick reminder. This chapter 1 is going to be very like overview of the whole element. So again, if you feel like this information is way too simple, just skip ahead, go into the projects, and start from there. But for those of you that are still getting some nice information out of this, these are polygroups, and there's one very nice shortcut that I want you to learn as well, which is this other groups. No, it's not other groups. It's is it group visible? I think it's Shift Control U or Shift Control W. I always forget. There we go. Control W. So Control W is the shortcut to polygroup whatever is visible. Okay. So if I were to select Control Shift to go into selection mode and then create a selection box where I select this guy's right here, or let's say this guy's right here. Oh, again, I'm gonna go select this like this, and you can see that there's only one face selected. So I press Control Shift and drag to select only this face, and now if I press Control W, what I just did is I just polygrouped this face so that it's a different group from the other ones. Now sometimes the colors are going to be really close. It really doesn't matter as long as there's separate hues or different hues, you're going to be just fine. And the reason why polygroups are so important is because a lot of the hard surface tools and techniques that we're going to be using will require you to have clean subtools. So for instance, the very basic one that we just talked about, the Q mesh, if I say a single poly, this one's going to be very easy, right? Because I just click, drag, and that's the single poly that we're using. And as we drag, you can see that we get new polygroups right around here. So if I were to go back into the options and select, for instance, polygroup all, and I try to polygroup this, you're going to see that we create this super long element because all of the faces here around that little extrusion that we did share the same polygroup. Now, if at any point you're doing this and you want to have different polygroups anytime you're using a tool inside of the CModeler thing, just make sure to press Alt, and that will change the colors. So that way, every time I do a new like Q mesh right here, you can see that we create this very nice transition. Do this while you're still clicking on the tool, otherwise this is not going to work. But now if I were to use Q mesh groups like this, I should be able to Q mesh everything. But as you can see, once I get here, it gets very difficult. Why? Because this color right here and this color right here are exactly the same. So again, if you want to keep it separate, just make sure to press Alt, and that should keep you, or should give you different colors. Again, the hue might be really close together, but as long as you press Alt, it should be a different polygroup. Now, one of the cool things about most tools inside of the CModeler thing is that they will remember the amount of like transitions that you did, or the amount of changes that you made. So for instance, let's say that we want to create, again, like this sort of like metal rod with different elements poking or extruding out. I can just Q mesh this, press Alt, again, to change elements. And if I just click, not click and drag, just click, it will immediately create a new one. But if I click and then just press a Alt and drag again, it will create a new one. So I can do this, and there we go, this, and there we go, this, and there we go. And as you can see, we have 5 different segments. I know all of the segments are the exact same distance, which is going to be very important if you want to create uniform elements. And now we can do the same for the extrusion. So I can say, there you go, and then there you go, and then, sorry, I just click, and there you go, and click, and while you click, just press Alt until we get like a different number. Give me just 1 second here. Oh. Huh, for some reason it's not doing it on this last one. Maybe it forgot. Let's try again. So there we go, and hit Alt, and then just click. Actually, I think we just need to click. There we go. Yeah, we just need to click because since we changed the polygroup, it remembers that that's part of the action. So now by doing that, we know that we get this exact effect. So I press D again, and there we go. We have this very nice element. Now let's go back to Shift D, and let's use again our insert edge loop here. So let's say that we want to insert one edge loop there, and maybe like one edge loop over here. And we just press D, and there we go. We have, I don't know, like one of those things that they use for cars, car ignitions and stuff. Let's go back to Shift D, and again, Q mesh is super cool. I'm actually gonna go here. Let's say like we want to do an inset, and then do another Q mesh here, Q mesh, and just push this in like this, and we start creating some very interesting shapes that it would be a little bit difficult to sculpt from scratch. Like if we started with just like a traditional, let's say, oh, nope. Let's say we started with a traditional sphere, right, and make this polymesh 3D and make this dynamesh, and we tried to get to this shape out of this sphere. We can do it, but we're gonna have to use a lot of like booleans and a lot of clip brushes and stuff, and it's just not worth it. So there's gonna be a lot of things that we're gonna be modeling directly with CModeler, just because it's a lot easier. And polygroups are gonna play a super important role here. Now, once I know that I would like this polygroup, for instance, I can again press Control W, and it will group everything together into a single mesh. And now with everything as a single mesh, there's more things that we can do. We can, for instance, press Control Alt and drag this up, and press Control Alt and drag this up again, and now we have 3 of these things. I don't know, this could be like if I'm doing like this sort of robotic element, and these are like energy condensers or something like that. There we go. You just place them where they need to be, and they will all share the exact same thing that we want. So for instance, something like this. Now if we have multiple objects selected and we press Control W again, it's gonna do everything. But if something's masked, and this is very interesting, it will only do whatever's masked. Okay, so again, if you create a mask and say Control W, it will mask whatever you have selected. So it's a very like interesting thing, because it will allow us to save some time by just masking what we want, pressing Control W, and it will identify that as a new thing that we want to polygroup, and that way we're gonna have a quicker access. So now it's just very easy to just control click an object that's gonna mask it, and we're gonna be able to just like modify it and rotate it. So imagine we're doing like a, I don't know, like a Mecha Godzilla kind of thing, and we want to add like this spikes on the back. There you go. It was super easy to create, and we can just do it. Now, this is not an exercise that I recommend you do. If you want to give it a try, then go for it. But that's it. Now, that's not all I want to talk about in regards to polygrouping. There's other ways in which we can polygroup. For instance, if we go all the way here to polygroups, we have autogroups, which is gonna pretty much autogroup every single face island. So if you have an object made out of multiple elements, each element is gonna be a different polygroup. We have a group front, which is very interesting because it's just gonna like literally project a line from my camera, and whatever I'm seeing right now, that's what's gonna be a polygroup. So if you know that you have like a very specific angle that you want to polygroup like this, and I say group front, that's what I'm gonna get, see? So there will be some times where we're doing this is gonna be super useful. You also have group from masking, which is something that we're gonna be using quite a bit as well. So here I'm gonna just jump to any like other brush, like the standard brush. There we go. And then I'm gonna paint a mask like this. And if I say group mask, you're gonna see that we get this very nice effect here. Let me go back to the white. There we go. So now that polygroup was or is a new element. And this is super handy. Again, if we have like a very complex shape, we can just like mask half of it and say group masked, and that's where we're gonna get. So again, super interesting way to do it. Polypaint is another one that we're gonna do later on, and it's another way to work. Let me show you real quick here. So if I were to say color, fill object, now this object is filled with let's turn RGB on. Color, fill object, now this object is filled with white paint, and I'm gonna go into the black paints, and let's say I want to design like a specific like plating or something. Let me go to the front view here, and without actually like masking or anything, I'm gonna paint like a specific like shield sort of thing, right? So I'm pressing Alt here, and as you can see, Alt is gonna like just delete the whole thing. It's doing the opposite. So instead of painting black, it's painting white. So let's do something like that. And let's say I'm doing again like a robot plate or something, and I wanna do the shape. Some people like doing it with masking. Polypaint sometimes is very handy because if you make a mistake with a mask, you have to like literally go back. But if you make a mistake with the paint, you can just paint in or out whatever you need. So let's go like this, like this, like this. Actually, let's like unify this together. And let's say like this is a very complex shape, right? Like maybe we want this very complex shape for a specific character or something. Let's do something like this. And that would be very difficult to extract and clean and do all that stuff. But if we just group from Polypaint, you're gonna see that what we're gonna get is a specific Polypaint effect right there. Let me go back to Subtool, and you can see that we can turn off the paint, and we're gonna get that shape there. So it's just, these are just ways that we can do, or things that we can do to create objects. I think that's one of the main things that I want to teach you guys throughout this series. There's no specific right or wrong way to do hard surface inside of ZBrush. There's so many tools and techniques that the main goal or the main purpose that you should have is to make sure that the object looks as good as it can be, right? So it doesn't really matter which tools you like the most. Some people really like light booleans, some people really like the brushes, like traditionally sculpting things. Other people like C-modeler. So it doesn't really matter which tool you like. I'm gonna be showing you all the tools, and you guys are gonna decide which one works best for the specific thing that you're doing. So yeah, that's it about polygroups, guys. Again, just make sure that you remember that there's a lot of options. We're going to be using some of them over here. There's one that I really like. This is kind of new. They just added this a couple of versions ago. So for instance, if I do this and I say group change points, you're going to see that all of the elements that I just moved are now a subtool. And you might be asking, well, why would that be like something that I want to do? Well, imagine you have a cube, for instance. Let's make this a polymesh 3D. Let's dynamesh it. And let's say I'm doing like some sort of like plating, right? And let's like really increase the resolution here. There we go. And let's say Control W so that everything is a single poly. And let's say I want to do an inset, right? So I'm just gonna mask this out and mask like the shape that I want to do. Something like that. And let's do like an angle over here, like another angle over here. There we go. Now, I don't want to do this mask, because if I do this mask, then some pixels, some elements might not be exactly what I want. However, if I invert the mask, move this in, like this, and say now group mask from group change points, whoop, there we go, from change points, you're going to see that we get this, right? Now, some of the polygroups, not exactly what I'm looking for. We can also do group mask here. And then after we do that, we just invert this mask. And let's try this again. Let's say just push this a little bit further in. And let's do group change points. There we go. So now we get that. No? And that's another way in which we're going to be able to create some elements. This is super dirty right now, I know. We're going to be showing you some tools and techniques, again, of how to clean all of this up. But the group change points, super, super useful, added very, very recently. So that's it for this one, guys. Again, just a quick overview of polygroups in case you guys needed a little bit of a refreshment. And yeah, let's continue with some more overall or like overview topics, and then we'll jump into our first exercise. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one.